Namaste, Shubhodayam, good morning to all the viewers of this program. Today is the third day of this semiconductor awareness program, and as we have done in yesterday's session, I just wanted to tell you all that I will take questions only at the end of the session, because as I said yesterday, it is kind of disturbing the flow of presentation for the serious viewers. So please cooperate and put your questions only in the last 7 or 8 minutes, which I will set aside for answering questions. Let's continue from where we left off yesterday, and the questions that I will take also can be from yesterday's coverage that I have done. We will continue with where we left yesterday, that is the basic CMOS circuits. This is a quick recap of where we stopped yesterday. We stopped here, and I said that in order to understand the operation of the CMOS circuits, that is the logic gates, we must look at these MOS devices as switches, which can be either in the off or the on state. For the NMOS devices, I said when the gate is held at logic 1, the device is turned on, that is the low resistance between drain and the source, otherwise it is off with a very high resistance between the drain and the source. For the PMOS devices, when the gate is held at a logic 0, then that turns on the device, providing a low resistance between the drain and the source. Otherwise, that means when the gate is held at logic 1, the device, PMOS device, is off. It is important to understand that an on device, either NMOS or PMOS, need not necessarily carry any current. It just means that the device has a low resistance between the drain and the source. Okay. Moving on, let's go now to look at the various aspects. Now I am not going to look into the basic devices like a 3-input NAND gate, a 4-input NAND gate and all that, because all these are readily available in the textbooks. However, what I am going to do is try to give the VLSI aspects of how these devices actually are made in a massive VLSI circuit. So when I am drawing the circuits of these rather CMOS circuits, you should understand that these are not isolated circuits which come in a chip, but they are a part of a huge VLSI chip in which several inverters, several NAND gates, several NOR gates may be there. So coming to this, let's look at what is the meaning of a transmission of a perfect 1 and a perfect 0 through the CMOS devices. Then we will also look at the concept of drive strength of CMOS circuits, what is meant by 1x, 2x, 4x drive strength, 8x, 16x drive strength. The higher the drive strength implies smaller delay. Delay means propagation delay of the gates. Why is this propagation delay? We will see why this propagation delay comes about. Then what is meant by contention? Contention, as many of you would know, is basically a fight. Contention is a fight. Okay, it's a struggle. So basically in CMOS devices also, what is a contention? What is meant by a weak driver? What is meant by a strong driver? What happens if a strong driver is in contention with a weak driver? How is the resolution of the logic obtained in such a case? The last point, but very important point, is why sizing of PMOS devices is required in CMOS circuits. Sizing of PMOS devices means PMOS devices are not having the same size as the NMOS devices in a CMOS circuit. We will go one by one through these points in the coming 1 hour that we have at our disposal. Okay, let us look at from the point of view of this particular thing. We have seen this. Now let's look at this particular transistor here, this inverter over here. When I say higher drive strength implies a smaller delay, an explanation through this figure is possibly a better way of explaining the thing. Look at this. A higher drive strength means that the drive to the amount of current that this PMOS device can supply is higher. the higher the current it can supply, the quicker the capacitor will get charged. The quicker the capacitor gets charged, the smaller is the time for it to transition from a logic 0 to a logic 1. Therefore, a higher drive strength necessarily implies a smaller propagation delay. Okay, and PMOS, the current through this higher drive strength means that the internal resistance or the output resistance of this device is low. The lower the resistance, the larger is the current that will flow through that particular device. So, that is the figure which helps you to understand how a higher drive strength implies a smaller delay. Moving on, let us look at the concept of transmission of a perfect 1 and a perfect 0. What is meant by perfect 1 and perfect 0? We saw yesterday that when the gate voltage is at Vg minus Vt, then the channel gets formed in a device and the device starts conducting. However, if the voltage is less than Vg minus Vt, then is less than Vt, the device will not conduct. Therefore, let us assume that we have an NMOS device over here in which the input, the drain is connected to VDD, and this is supposed to act as a transmission switch, okay, with the gate being held at a logic 1. That is, the input is equal to 1, the gate is held at a logic 1. Therefore, this device is turned on according to the principle, according to what we have discussed 1 or 2 slides earlier. So, when this is at VDD and this is also at logic input logic 1, this device turns on, and this particular parasitic capacitance which exists at this node, every node will have a parasitic capacitance, and unless the capacitance is fully charged, the node will not transition from a 0 to a 1. Therefore, assuming that previously the node was at logic 0, then there is a resistance over here because this is a low resistance device. Through this resistance, this capacitance will start charging through an RC circuit with some RC time constant. It does not matter whether this is a fixed resistance or a variable resistance or whatever it is. Right now, we will think of it as a resistance, and this resistance allows the current to flow through and charges the capacitance. Now, as the capacitance is charging, its voltage actually gradually increases from 0 and goes towards VDD. Because this is the supply voltage, this is the input voltage, and the capacitance is expected to charge up to VDD in an RC circuit. However, when the voltage reaches VDD minus VTH, where VTN, where VTN is the threshold voltage of an NMOS device, then what happens is that the difference between the gate voltage and the source voltage, the gate to source voltage actually becomes VTN. This is at VDD, the output has risen to VDD minus VTN. Therefore, the difference between the gate and the source, I said yesterday that the source of electrons, the source of majority carriers, from where the majority carriers emanate is the source, and where they go and terminate or they get collected is the drain. Now, electrons will flow from this side to this side. Therefore, the direction of conventional current is the opposite to the direction of electrons. Therefore, current will flow from drain to source. In an NMOS device, current always flows from drain to source. In a PMOS device, the current always flows from source to drain, because the majority carriers in a PMOS device are holes. Well, continuing with this, when the voltage reaches VDD minus VTN, the difference between gate and source is only VT, the threshold voltage. At this point, what happens is the channel gets cut off. It's a very simplistic explanation, but yes, the channel gets cut off and no further current flows. In fact, a very high resistance is now present over here. That low resistance which existed when the capacitance was at 0 voltage now gets into a high resistance, and therefore the amount of current which is flowing through this is almost 0, and the voltage never really rises above VDD minus VTN. So, given enough time, yes, this voltage will ultimately reach VDD even though this resistance is very high. But in CMOS devices, when we are operating at several hundred megahertz or maybe in the range of 500 megahertz to 1 gigahertz, okay, you don't have that time to wait. Given 3 or 4 seconds or 5 seconds, this might perhaps charge, but that's not the kind of time that we are looking at. So therefore, this node comes and stops at VDD minus VT, which is basically one threshold voltage below the perfect one, which is logic 1, that is VDD. A perfect logic 1 is VDD, a perfect logic 0 is ground. Hence, the NMOS device does not transmit a 1 perfectly. Okay, so I hope this is understood, because this is because of the presence of a threshold voltage required to form the channel. When the voltage between the gate and the source falls below or is equal to the threshold voltage of an NMOS device, the device cuts off and no further rise in this capacitance voltage is observed, can be expected. Now let's look at 0. Now what happens is, let us assume that this node was at a logic 1, that is VDD minus VTN. It had risen to this value, and now the input actually goes from VDD to logic 0. Logic 0 is nothing but ground, so they have shown it symbolically as being connected to ground. Now what happens is, because this is at a higher potential and this is at a lower potential, you see that this terminal acts as the drain and this terminal acts as the source, which is quite the opposite of how it was acting over here. Now with this value being VDD minus VTN and this value being ground and VDD being equal to 1 at the gate, therefore the device is on, what happens is the difference between the gate and the source voltage is fixed at VDD. It never changes, because this is fixed to ground and this is fixed to input 1, therefore this voltage doesn't change. Hence, the device is always, mind you, always in conduction. It never cuts off, and the capacitor completely discharges to ground through this resistance, and therefore the output voltage goes to 0. When the input voltage is 0, the output voltage also goes to 0. Therefore, this is a good perfect 0 transmission. When the input voltage is 0, the output voltage is also 0. Therefore, this is a perfect 0 transmission. Therefore, we say that an NMOS device is perfect for a 0 but imperfect for 1 transmission. If there is a logic 1 over here, the output is a logic 1, but then it is not quite the same voltage value as is present at the input. Let's move on to PMOS device. Exactly the opposite is applicable for the PMOS device, which is basically a good transmitter of 1 but a bad transmitter of 0. The same thing, exactly the same thing. Here we have a gate, okay, which is it should be at the input 0, in which case this should be transmitting. It's a copy and paste error, I beg your pardon for this. This should be an input 0, in which case here what happens is the device is turned on. When the device is turned on, okay, this will be at 0 and this will be at VDD. Therefore, the voltage difference between the source and the gate is fixed and large enough for the device to be conducting always. When always the device conducts, look at this, that the current is flowing from the source to the drain through the majority carriers, that is the holes, and the direction of conventional current is the same as the direction of the movement of holes. Therefore, current flows from source to drain, and because this is always in conduction, I already told you there is an error over here. Okay, I have picked it up from some other place. Therefore, there was a cut and paste error over here, and because it's a copied picture, okay, I am not able to edit this. Therefore, I am telling you orally that this must be a logic 0 for this to conduct. When this is conducting, therefore, the output rises completely to VDD because this device is always in conduction. On the other hand, if ground is applied, ground or logic 0 is applied at this point, then what happens is this is at a higher potential. It was VDD earlier, therefore this becomes the source and this becomes the drain, and the current starts flowing from here to here through this device, and this capacitance completely discharges to ground. Okay, not completely, it starts discharging to ground. Now, when it reaches a voltage equal to VTP, which is the threshold voltage of a PMOS device, okay, the channel so formed inside this goes away. The channel gets the formation of channel is no longer existing, and therefore this device does not conduct or conducts in a very with a very high resistance, and therefore the amount of current flowing through this is extremely small, not enough for the capacitance to discharge completely to ground in the time that is available before the next switching happens. It is important to understand that given enough time, this capacitance will ultimately discharge to ground, but we don't have that much of time. Okay, when you are operating at hundreds of megahertz, we have only a nanosecond or a few nanoseconds, and that amount of time is not sufficient for the capacitance to discharge completely. Therefore, as when the capacitance, when the voltage on this capacitance drops from VDD and approaches VTP, the channel gets cut off and no further discharge of the capacitance happens. Therefore, the output remains at VTP, which is the threshold voltage, and the threshold voltage typically is roughly about 15 to 20% of your supply voltage. Therefore, if the supply voltage is 3 volts, 20% of 3 volts is 0.6 volts, or 15% of 3 volts is 0.45 volts. Therefore, the output will come and settle means remain at 0.45. It will not go to ground. Therefore, the PMOS transistor is not a good conductor of 0. It is a good conductor or good transmitter of 1, but not a good transmitter of 0. If I go back here to this particular slide, you will see that the charging of the capacitance, which is basically done through the PMOS device, this is a logic 1 over here. Therefore, this PMOS device acting as a switch is a perfect transmitter of logic 1. Therefore, the output will reach, output node Y will reach fully the value of VDD. When the output reaches the value of VDD, there is no current flowing through the capacitance, because both the sides of this resistance, PMOS device is a resistance, both the sides of this resistance are at VDD. Therefore, there is no voltage drop, voltage difference between the two ends of the resistance, no current flows. Therefore, the output reaches VDD. So, it is a perfect transmitter. This is a pull up device, and this is known as a pull down device. In general, you will have a pull up network when you have more than one transistor, and a pull down network consisting of NMOS devices when you have more than one device in this pull down network. Now, when the input is at a logic 1, then this device is off. It is a very high resistance value. Okay, this device is off and this device is on. It's a low resistance, and therefore this capacitance completely discharges to ground. You can think of ground as a logical input to this particular device when input A is at 1, meaning that this device is conducting. When this device is conducting, the capacitance completely discharges through to ground. Therefore, this ground value, which is at a logic 0 value, is perfectly transmitted to the output Y, and the output Y also goes and sits at logic 0. Therefore, the output Y swings from VDD to ground, and therefore, this is called a rail to rail swing. Rail to rail swing means VDD and ground are two rails. Previously, they used to be rail like conductors, therefore, they are still called rails. So, this is called a rail to rail swing. Okay. And this is the concept of a transmission of a perfect 1 and a perfect 0. PMOS is good for 1, bad for 0. NMOS is good for 0, bad for 1. Not bad, imperfect. I won't say it's bad, but it's imperfect transmission of 0, a perfect imperfect transmission of 1 and a perfect transmitter of 0, imperfect for 0 and a perfect for 1. Moving on, we have done this. Now, let us look at the concept of drive strength. What is meant by drive strength? The drive strength of a device is its ability to sustain the output voltage at the same, if it is a high level, when sourcing current driving a logic 1. When it is driving a logic 1, the output voltage must remain as high as possible. Or when it is driving a logic 0, the output voltage must remain as low as possible, ideally at 0 in this case and ideally at 1 in this case. Okay. Now, in electrical engineering, EE for short, load means current, not the resistance. Load is not resistance. Please mind that load, please be aware that load is not resistance, but it is current. Higher resistance implies smaller load. Okay. Thus, when we say in our homes, sometimes if there is an overload or a short circuit, more than the rated current flows, and if your house is wired with a mini circuit breaker MCB, that MCB trips. Why does it trip? Because the current flowing through the MCB is greater than the rated current of that particular MCB. So, overload means drawing more than the rated current. Overload means drawing more than the rated current. Okay, we will explain this phenomenon of drive strength through a diagram in the next slide. I have put up this slide for you, and I want to ask you this question. Of course, I am not expecting a reply from you immediately, but this is basically a question: which is a better driver, A or B? A has got this characteristic and B has got this characteristic. This is the output characteristic of a particular gate, in which on the y-axis I have plotted V out. The output voltage remains at logic 1 for until this current is drawn, and then it starts falling. Okay, and this as I out increases, the V out falls. Now, the thing is, which is a better driver, A or B? It will help if you understand that the slopes of these two curves, okay, represent the output resistance or the internal resistance of the driver. The internal resistance of the driver. I will show you some things over here. Now, let us say I have a logic diagram over here, and this is a resistance of your PMOS device, okay, and you have some voltage over here. When you have this voltage over here, this is a voltage V and this is the point P. Therefore, the voltage at P is nothing but, and let us say a current of I is flowing here. A current of I is flowing here. Therefore, the voltage at the point P is V minus IR, where R here is the internal resistance of that particular device. Therefore, the higher the internal resistance, therefore, the Vp I can write as Vp is equal to V minus I into R. And higher the value of R, the smaller is the value of Vp. Therefore, we can say that this particular slope of the A and B, of either A or the curve A or the curve B, these are two different characteristics of two different drivers. Okay, I have named the first driver A and the other driver B. So, when this represents the slope represents internal resistance. Obviously, B has got a lesser slope than A. The slope of A, of course, this slope is negative. Yes, fine, but this represents a larger slope, represents a larger internal resistance. A smaller slope represents a smaller internal resistance. Therefore, B is a better driver because it has got a lesser slope, smaller slope than A. In other words, I can go over here and maybe, okay, fine. I will explain this to you with the help of a certain measurements which are taken in the next slide. Yeah, if you look at this and if you draw a horizontal line, it means that for any given output voltage, what happens is this much amount of current up to this point is provided by the driver A, whereas driver B will provide up to this much amount of current. This much amount of current is provided by the driver B. Therefore, the driver B is able to drive a larger current than driver A for a given output voltage. This is how the horizontal line explains the thing. On the other hand, if you take an output current, some fixed output current, then the driver A is able to sustain only a low voltage, whereas driver B is able to sustain a high voltage higher than driver A. Therefore, the drive strength of A is small because it cannot supply that much current, or even if it tries to supply that much current, the voltage will fall more rapidly than the driver B. Therefore, the driver B is a better driver than driver A, because for a given voltage B supplies more current than A, and for a given current B sustains a higher voltage than A. Now, the most ideal driver would be a driver which has got a horizontal line completely like this, okay, which is the characteristic of an ideal voltage source whose output voltage doesn't change even if the current supplied by that voltage source is increasing. So, therefore, an ideal voltage source has got zero internal resistance, which is given by the horizontal line being shown over here like this. That would be the ideal driver. Now, in this case, B is a better driver than A, because B has got a higher drive strength than A. This is the concept of drive strength. You can typically say that if the current for A, this is the at this voltage, this is the drive strength of this particular device, and this is the drive strength of this particular device. We can see that roughly the B is having a 50% higher drive strength than A. Like this, in the cell libraries of the technology library, these cells, there are several cells. We have 1x, we have 2x, we have 4x drive strength, higher drive strength. 4x is only a name. It may not necessarily mean that the drive strength is 4 times, the current is 4 times the current of this compared to this at a given voltage. It is just a name which is given for a higher drive strength. We have 8x and we have 16x also. You must understand that these are basically CMOS circuits or CMOS cells. Cell is a logic cell in a technology library which I mentioned earlier, and therefore for a given logical function there are several cells that are available, one for 1x drive, one for 2x drive, one for 4x drive, 8x drive, 16x drive, and so on and so forth. Now, you might ask, why do we need to have so many drive strengths and one? Well, it's like this. When the synthesis process happens, by default 1x drive strength is chosen, but if it is not able to meet the timing requirements, then a higher drive strength is chosen, because a higher drive strength, as I said, implies smaller delay. Smaller delay means higher frequency of operation. Therefore, this is possible using higher drive strength. Of course, it goes that higher drive strength means a larger device. The area of that particular silicon is more for cells of a higher drive strength than for cells of a lower drive strength. Okay. So, the larger the drive strength, of course, the larger the area. We have seen this. Okay. Now, let us look at what is meant by contention. Contention in CMOS devices. In general, contention means a fight which will occur if 2 or more gates drive the same signal line at the same time, but with opposite logic values. With the same logic value, if they drive, there is no fight. They are cooperating. They are not contending. Okay. That is cooperation, not contention. However, if two, I have just shown inverters as a general case of a logic driving a particular signal over here. This is a SIG1 which is being driven by 2 drivers, one on the left hand side which is driving a logic 1 on that signal which is connected by a blue line, and the other which is driving a logic 0 connected by a red line to a signal SIG1. Now, if both of them are having equal strength, drive strength, then what happens is in this particular case, because it's driving a logic 1, this P device is on, and because this is driving a logic 0, this N device is on. Now, because these devices are on, they have got a relatively low resistance over here like this, okay, and a low resistance here like this. When that happens, there is, during contention, there is a current that flows through this down to ground. Let me show you this. Typically, I will erase whatever I have written here and I will show you. Now, let us take, I have a NMOS device over here whose internal resistance is like this. The PMOS device is off, then this is driving a signal over here, and the other is being driven by another this is an NMOS resistance, and this device is off over here. This device is off. Okay, similarly this device is off. Now this is your PMOS device and this is your NMOS device. Therefore, this is driving a logic 1. This was driving a logic 1 and this was driving a logic 0. But now what happens is, because this is let us say this is having a resistance of 2K, okay, a low resistance, and this is also having a resistance of 2K. So what will happen is, this acts like a potential divider. When this acts as a potential divider, this voltage VDD, what will be the voltage at this point? The voltage at this point will be VDD divided by 2. This will be VDD by 2, and therefore it is neither a logic 1 nor a logic 0. In Verilog it is called X. X is something which is unknown. It is neither it may be treated as a logic 0, it may be treated as a logic 1 by some other devices. Therefore, there is a contention which results in a value of X. Now this is the case when both the devices are equally strong. When both the devices are equally strong. Now let us say that the left hand side device which is driving a logic 1 is strong, and the right hand side device which is driving a logic 0 is weak. When that happens, a weak device typically has got a higher internal resistance. When it has got a higher internal resistance, let us take that the internal resistance of this particular device, instead of being 2K, let us say it is of the order of 20K or 10K. Let us say it is of the order of 1 minute. I will just redraw this device like this. Okay, and this is of the order of about 10K. Now what will happen? Now this is still a potential divider, but now the value over here is not really 1 or 0. The value over here is not 1 or 0. Now the value here is VDD into 10 by 12. What is the value here? The value here will be VDD into 10 by 12. This will be VDD, and 10 by 12 is 5 by 6. And therefore this is clearly a case of logic 1. Therefore, if we have a strong driver, and contending with a weak driver, then it's always the strong driver wins, because the strong driver was driving a logic 1 over here and the weak driver was trying to drive a logic 0. The strong driver says, nothing doing, I am stronger than you, and my logic value will prevail. Therefore, this will be 5/6 of VDD, and if VDD is about 3 volts, let us say 3 into 5, 15 by 6, which is 15 by 6 is 2.5. So from 3 you get 2.5 volts, which is clearly a case of logic 1. In CMOS circuits, I may add here, in CMOS circuits 70% and above of VDD is considered as logic 1, 30% of VDD and below is considered as logic 0. Therefore, if you have a strong driver, the strong driver will win against the weak driver. But if both the drivers have got equal strength, this also will be a 2K, just as that is 2K. This is also will be 2K. Then this will be not VDD, but it will be VDD by 2, and which is neither a logic 0 nor a logic 1. I hope this is clear about contention. So this is what I have shown as a contention. The problem arising with contention is that when the current flows through two low resistance devices, a lot of power gets consumed, and if this condition is allowed to remain like this in this state for a long time, the device is likely to get damaged, because this contention may happen at several places inside the device, and therefore it's likely to get damaged because of overheating. That's a possibility, though it may not always happen. There is a distinct possibility. Okay, let's move on with the next slide. We will look at sizing of the PMOS devices. If you look at the sizing of the PMOS devices, one thing you must know from your earlier study of semiconductor electronics is that the mobility plays a very important role in the current expression expression for the current of a PMOS and an NMOS device. The expression is the same, except that the mu value, which is basically the mobility for electrons, is higher than the mobility of holes by a factor of roughly about 2.8, by roughly a factor of 2.8. Therefore, if you take the same expression, the PMOS current will be 2.8 times less than the NMOS current. This slide, which I want to put up here, is we have seen for an NMOS device. Okay, here we have seen that whether it is saturation or whether it is in resistive region or saturation, this is mu n. All other things being the same, mu n is 2.8 times of mu p. For a PMOS device, this will be ISD, the source to drain current, and this expression will get changed to mu p, and the remaining things will remain the same. Okay, remaining things will remain the same, except this becomes SG, because the voltage at the source must be greater than the voltage at the gate for a PMOS device. Therefore, this will be SG, other things will remain the same. Now, if this is the case, because mu p is 2.8 times lower than mu n, okay, what will happen is the current through the PMOS device will be 2.8 times lower than the current through the NMOS device. Now, yesterday somebody was asking me a question, why should the currents be the same? The currents must be the same because the charging time, which determines the rise time, and the discharge time, which is basically the fall time, must be the same, symmetric, because it's much easier to design circuits which have got a symmetric rise and a fall time. What with so many inverters, so many buffers and so many gates being around, it always helps and becomes a relatively simple matter to design timing tools where the rise time and the fall time are the same. Now, for that to happen, we must ensure that the charging current and the discharging current is the same. For that to happen, the PMOS device is made 2.8 times wider. The channel length will be the same. It's like saying, because the mobility of holes is 2.8 times slower or lower than the electrons, in order to enable the same number of holes to go from the source to the drain, from one terminal to the other terminal, obviously you must make the channel wider, so that the sluggish holes, more number of sluggish holes will cross over from one terminal, one well, to the other terminal, okay, thus providing the same amount of current as the NMOS device. NMOS device being having electrons as the majority carriers, the electron mobility is higher, therefore they move faster, whereas holes move slower. Therefore, you need to have more number of holes, slow moving holes, in order to ensure that the same volume of either holes or electrons cross over from one terminal to the other terminal in a given amount of time. What is current? Current is the rate of change of charge, or the flow of charge is called current. Therefore, in order to ensure that this happens, the PMOS current is like this, the charging current is to the PMOS and the discharging current is to the NMOS. Therefore, if the NMOS size, transistor size, is taken as a unit size, whatever that size means, it could be 5 square microns, it could be 10 square microns, anything. If you take this as a unit size, the size of the PMOS device will be 2.8 times the size of the NMOS device. Therefore, the total inverter size will be 3.8. You just add, I am not taking the routing area and the connecting area, just the device areas I am taking. So, therefore, and this is a very, very simplified calculation that I am making, okay, will be 3.8. This will ensure that the charging current is the same as the discharging current, which means that the rise time is the same as the fall time in an inverter in which the PMOS device has been sized to a value of 2.8 times larger in area than this. The channel length is the same, mind you, the width is different, okay, that has to be there. Otherwise, if both these devices are of size 1, then the PMOS current will be 2.8 times lower roughly, and therefore the rise time will be much larger than the fall time in the capacitance in the output. That should not be the case. It is preferred, it is desirable to have rise time and fall time the same. Therefore, the PMOS device has to be sized. What about sizing of PMOS devices in a 2-input NAND gate? This is a 2-input NAND gate in which these two constitute the pull down network and these two constitute the pull up network. Typically, the pull up network is the dual of the pull down network. You know what is meant by dual of a particular logic expression. I am not going to go into that, but this is the dual of this. Now, if you look at this, the 2-input NAND gate, if both A and B are at logic 1, then both these devices are on, both these devices are conducting, and the capacitance discharges through this device to ground, and this ground is transmitted to the output as a perfect 0, because NMOS is a perfect transmitter of 0. Therefore, Y becomes 0. Now, if any one of them is not 1, let us say B is 0. If B is 0, then this device is off and this device is on. Therefore, the current flows through this device and charges the capacitance to a logic 1, and because it is getting charged through a PMOS device which is a perfect transmitter of 1, the output Y reaches VDD and Y swings from VDD to ground. Now, what happens is, when this particular charging current is through this device, now you may say that both A and B could be 0. Yes, both A and B could be 0, in which case both these devices are on and the current gets distributed through these devices, and maybe the charging is slightly faster. Yes, but the worst case is when one device is on. When one device is on, what happens is the charging happens through this particular device, which is sized at 2.8. A single device, the charging happens here, but the discharge is happening through two devices in series. Now, if these two devices are in series, their resistances will add together, Therefore, if this is R on for an N device and this is also R on for an N device, the total resistance will be 2 times R on, which means that now in an inverter, when we did that, Rp, the resistance of the P device, is the same as the resistance of the Rn device, that Rp is equal to Rn. But when we go in for a NAND gate like this, we have to size the transistor here also such that this becomes Rn by 2. Therefore, we have to increase the width of this transistor to 2x factor, compared to that in the inverter. Similarly, this also has to be increased to a 2x factor compared to that of the inverter, and therefore, this has to be 2 times the width. Therefore, the area of this is designated as 2 and the area of this is designated as 2. Mind you, why this has to be increased is because you need to reduce the resistance of this to half the value, so that when both of them are put in series as it should be, then the total value of discharge path, resistance in the discharge path is Rn, and the value of the resistance in the charging path is Rp, and we have made Rp is equal to Rn for the inverter. Rp is the resistance of the PMOS device in the inverter, Rn is the resistance of the NMOS device, which is the only device in the discharge path. Here, because there are two devices, we have to double their width in order to get an Rn value, a value of resistance equal to Rn. What is the size of this? 2 plus 2 plus 2.8 and 2.8, 5.6 plus 4 is equal to 9.6. We all know that a NAND is a universal gate. Therefore, any logic function can be implemented using NAND or NOR. Now, we will see as we go along that we will look at this 2-input NOR gate. Now, what happens here is, now the N devices are in parallel, whereas the P devices are in series. Now, if the P devices are in series and in an inverter the P device was a size 2.8 2.8. In a NOR gate, it has to be 5.6 because these two are coming in series. If this is 2.8 and this is 2.8, the charging path will have a resistance of 2 times Rp, and whereas the discharge path will have a resistance of Rn. Okay. However, we want Rn and the discharge path resistance and the charging path resistance to be the same. Therefore, we size this to 5.6. Okay, and this is also sized to 5.6, so that this becomes Rp by 2, this becomes Rp by 2, this combination becomes Rp, and the discharge path has, the charging path has got a resistance of Rp, and the discharge path has got a resistance of Rn, and because Rp is equal to Rn, Rp is equal to Rn due to the fact that the Rp is that of a PMOS resistor, PMOS transistor whose width is 2.8 times. That is why we get Rp is equal to Rn. Now you see here that the area of this has got a number 5.6 plus 5.6, 11.2 plus 2 is 13.2, whereas a NAND gate had got a value of 9.6. Obviously, the area of a NOR gate is greater than the area of a NAND gate, and because NOR or NAND, any of them can be used to implement any logic function, then the VLSI circuits prefer the usage of a NAND gate compared to a NOR gate, because the size of a NOR gate is greater than the size of a NAND gate. Okay, I will go ahead one more slide. And it is not always that PMOS and NMOS devices must be used in the implementation of a logic function. We can implement a 2-input AND gate using this also. Now what happens is, this is an NMOS device and this is also an NMOS device. This is the logic input A, this is the logic input B, and if you are able to see, this is the logic input B prime. Now you may say, where from B prime has come? B prime is being taken, B prime means B bar, the logic negation of B is being taken from some place in the VLSI chip where B prime is available. It can be taken from there. One inverter might be perhaps necessary to generate B prime. Okay. So B prime is given over here. Now look at this 2-input NAND gate. How many devices does it have? It has only 2 devices. Now look at this. Of course, if you go by this, if A is 0 and B is 0, then Y must be 0. Look at this. If A is 0, if B is 0, then this device is off. When this device is off, okay, ideally if this device was not there, then Y would not be 0, Y would be floating. It would be tri-stated. We don't want it to get tri-stated. We must ensure that it reaches logic 0. Therefore, we are applying B prime to this NMOS device over here. You can also apply B to a PMOS device, that is also fine, but the idea here is to show that this is using only NMOS devices. Therefore, B prime, I am not sure whether the prime is correctly visible or not, but this is B prime. Therefore, B prime is a logic 1. This device turns on and Y is pulled down to 0 because of this on device. Logic 0 is transmitted over there. So when A and B both are 0, the output Y is 0. When A is 0 and B is 1, when A is 0 and B is 1, this device is on and this device is off. When this device is off, this is like an open circuit over here, and this 0 gets transmitted over here, though it is not a perfect it is a perfect transmitter, because A0 gets transmitted perfectly. 0 gets transmitted perfectly, therefore this 0 is, the output goes to 0 when A is 0 and B is 1. This device causes the transmission of A to the output. When both are 0, this causes the transmission of 0 to Y. When A is 0 and B is 1, the input is transmitted directly to the output. When A is 1 and B is 0, when A is 1 and B is 0, this device is off. This device is off. I am getting a call. Let me take this call. Yes, you can ask your question, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Can you be a bit louder? Good morning.
Now audible, sir?
Yes, very much. Loud and clear now.
Yes, sir. Sir, sizing of P material, can you repeat this one? Why we need more size better than NMOS?
Okay. The thing is, the mobility of holes is 2.8 times less than the mobility of electrons. Holes are sluggish. They don't move as fast as electrons. Now, the current is basically how much charge can be transported from one terminal to the other terminal. Okay. Now, if holes are slow to travel, more number of holes are required to travel from one terminal to the other terminal. Okay. How do you get these more number of holes? By increasing the width of the particular channel. Let's take a bus which is traveling at 50 kilometers per hour, okay, has got 50 passengers. So, it can transport 50 passengers from one place to another place in 1 hour. 50 kilometers it will travel, okay, in 1 hour. Okay. But now, let's say you have a bullock cart and bullock cart goes slow. Okay. Let's take the bullock cart. There are so many number. Bullock cart carries only 10 people. So, if the bullock cart carries, let's say the bullock cart carries only 10 persons. So, you require 5 such bullock carts to go from one place to another place, assuming that the bullock cart, the bull runs at a good speed as fast as the bus, because there are lesser number of lesser number of people in a bullock cart. You need more number of bullock carts, a wider road, in order to transport the people from one place to another place. The same thing is there with the same is the case with electrons and holes. Therefore, you need to make the PMOS transistor wider in order to transport the same number of charges from one terminal to the other terminal as are being transported by the electrons in the NMOS device. That is the reason. Okay. We will continue. So, therefore, coming to this slide, okay, if you are not particularly happy with the answer, you can mail me and I will mail it to you, mail the answer to you, more elaborate answer, or maybe with a small diagram also. Okay, right. So, therefore, now if A is 1 and B is 0, this device is off, this device is on. Therefore, the 0 from here will get transmitted here. And if A and B, both of them are 1, then what happens is A is 1, B is 1. Therefore, this device is on because of B being 1, this device is on, and this device is off, and this 1 gets transmitted to Y. Though of course, we know that N is not a perfect transmitter of 1, but nevertheless it is a logic 1. Therefore, when in places where you can afford to have such a logic 1, a degraded logic 1, it is fine to have this particular logic 1. Okay. Now, if you use this logic 1, a degraded logic 1 which is available over here, if you use this degraded logic 1 available here as an input to some other gate, okay, then there will be a problem, because the gate itself will be at some voltage and the output voltage will be one more threshold voltage lower than the gate voltage, and therefore, such degradation becomes cumulative. It keeps accumulating if you use this particular output, to control the gate voltage of any other device. Okay. If you are not doing that, and if such a small degradation in the output voltage is acceptable, then the AND gate can be used constructing this circuit, and this is a logic circuit using only NMOS devices. One call is on the way. Let me take this call, please. Yes, please ask your question.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
I am Bhavani. I am from Hyderabad.
Okay.
So, sir, present I am pursuing Electronics and Communication Engineering, Mallareddy Institute of Technology. I am in second year, sir. I have a lot of interest to go through this VLSI and embedded systems.
Okay.
But like I have heard that there are not many opportunities for into this, and they usually recruit INITians companies.
Well,
so sir, like I have heard about this Veda IIT Institute yesterday, and I have heard about the exam like yesterday you had told. So I have gone through the exam pattern also, sir. So like you said, there is a 1 year training, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like sir, what is the scope of getting into the job opportunities like?
If you get into a VLSI training institute, I said yesterday, VLSI training institutes have got the advantage that they have got tie-up with the industry also. So basically, once you pass out of these VLSI training institutes, a job is more or less assured for you, more or less assured. Okay, of course, it depends on your performance in the interview at the employer end, but yes, they have a tie-up. You can take this question offline. Maybe you can mail your question to me. Yesterday I have given my mail ID, okay, and then I will be able to answer the question elaborately. Here it's not a time to give an elaborate answer because it will eat away into a lot of our time. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, also, how can I get access to this PPT you are teaching from right now?
You can just listen to this. Why do you want to have access? It is available on YouTube also. You can listen to it once again on the YouTube. You can make down your own, you can take down your own notes. I am not very sure whether this PPT is accessible to all or not. Okay, yeah. So this is where we are here, and now coming to once again, the last thing I will say that because NMOS is a good transmitter of 0 and PMOS is a good transmitter of 1, a CMOS switch is made by having a parallel connection between an NMOS device here at the bottom and a PMOS device here at the top, okay, in which their gates are controlled by complementary values. If this is a control is equal to 1, the NMOS device is on, and this will naturally provide a 0 to the PMOS device. PMOS device also will be on, therefore this CMOS device is on, and if the input is at a logic 0, if the NMOS device takes the responsibility to transmit a perfect 0, if the input is a logic 1, the PMOS device takes the responsibility to transmit a perfect 1. Therefore a CMOS switch acts as a perfect transmitter of 1 and 0. Taking the good properties of NMOS and the good properties of PMOS, we can make a CMOS switch. I think this is where we should stop for now. Till then, bye bye to all of you. Thank you. Namaste.